Salve to discipuli. This is Magistra Buddy, and this is the stage 16 lesson on pluperfects. Quick review on the personal endings. For when it's I as the subject of the verb, it usually ends in O, sometimes M. If it's you, it's an S. T for he, she, it. Mus for we, tis for you all, and NT for they, or multiple subjects. Here's what the pluperfect looks like. It comes from the third principal part, which we know as the perfect tense. All you do is chop off the ending, which is the I, and then add eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. That should be very familiar. It is the imperfect of the irregular verb to be. So the irregular verb to be in the imperfect simply becomes our endings. The way you translate it is as follows: I had carried, you had carried, and so on and so forth. So it's just had plus the ed form of the verb. Let's look at a couple of examples. In aula erat ursa, quam rex ex Italia importaverat. Importaverat is our pluperfect. The part that's in bold here is from the third principal part of this verb, and then we see erat, which is the third person singular for the pluperfect tense. In atrio sedebant hospites quos ad alam invitaveramus. So invitav is the third principal part of this verb. Eramus comes from up here, eramus. This is our ending. It's the first person plural for the pluperfect tense. Savius me punivit quod a vila fugaram. So the fug is the base, the root, for the third principal part of this verb. And then we have eram, which is right here. Eram, I had fled. All right, let's do some practice sentences. These are the 3 sentences we actually just went over. Pause the video for a moment, copy them down, mark each subject with an S and each verb with its tense. Quick clue or hint, there's going to be 2 verbs in each sentence. Write out a translation for each one. Go ahead and pause the video and do this. All right, so let's look at the first sentence. Erat is an imperfect verb. Ursa is the subject of that verb. Here we have a relative clause. King is the subject of the relative clause. Importaverat is the pluperfect verb of that clause. In the palace was a bear, which the king had imported from Italy. Quick note on how we translate pluperfects. The pluperfect indicates something that happened before another past tense in the sentence. So erat is a past tense. This past tense, this pluperfect, happened before the other one. So the king had imported the bear from Italy before the bear was in the palace. All right, second sentence. Sedebant is our imperfect verb. Hospites is the subject of that verb. Over here, we have invitaveramus. It is a pluperfect verb. We is the subject. It's just understood. There's actually no nominative here in this relative clause. And here's how we translate it. Guests were sitting in the atrium whom we had invited to the palace. So the guests were invited to the palace before they were sitting in the atrium. So we can see here how the pluperfect happened before the imperfect did. First the guests were invited, then they were sitting. But both of these are past tense. It's just that one happened before the other did. All right, third sentence. Savius here is nominative. That's our subject. Punivit is perfect. Fugaram is pluperfect, and again, our subject is embedded in the verb ending. Eram means I. Salvius punished me because I had fled from the house. So, like I said earlier, puniwit is perfect tense. That's a past tense. The pluperfect here happened before the perfect did. So, quick summary for pluperfects. Always remember, first, the pluperfect uses the third principal part of a verb. The endings are the imperfect of to be, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. The dashes here indicate that in this context, these are not independent words standing alone. These are endings. You translate them as had verbed. So had loved, had cooked. In English, of course, there's always going to be some irregulars like had run. It indicates a past event that occurred before another past event in the sentence. Vale to discipuli.